Well, I had, oh, this is a mic test. What was that? Is that a chair in the other room?
Maybe.
Yeah. Are you able to hear us on the call? My parents paid for some of my signs, but that was the only contribution I took. So, and it was under $1,000.
Yeah.
I didn't put it in. Shelley, were you able to hear us? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know whether anyone can hear me, but
Yeah. We can hear you in Douglas Cardinal, Tony.
okay, thank you.
We got you loud and clear. Somebody's not muted. I'm not muted now. Now I am.
I will mute now.
That should pick me up.
Yeah, I must admit, I did not like the way that game ended.
Two penalties I heard red, so. Morning, Kerry.
Morning. I'm going to come in for the second part of this meeting, so see where my space is.
Wherever you want it to be. Our counselor Hughes and Bermatzi actually coming in? No, she was on the call.
No, I just put it up just in case.
Okay.
My main screen has this meeting will begin shortly, and I'm just a picture off to the right. Will that change once the meeting starts? Or?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, it's just until the meeting begins.
Okay, thanks.
Tony, are you presenting or is Al?
Yeah, I'll be doing the main presentation, but Al will be there, and as soon as I start to stumble, he will jump in and replace me. Or if my computer goes on a blink and I'm again. So yeah, I'll make the main presentation, but Al is there to answer any questions and to jump in.
All right, just so you know, I will give you a minimum of 7 minutes, so don't rush. Don't feel like you have to rush in your presentation.
Thank you. I've been wondering about that, so that's a relief.
Okay, great, thanks. Good morning, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day for everybody on the call and in person. We have, this is the February 14th meeting of the Community Living Standing Committee. We have in attendance this morning, we have Councilor Bermansky, Councilor Hughes, Mayor Herron, myself, and administration. Before we get into presentations, has everybody looked over the agenda? Any changes to the agenda for anybody of the committee? I also, while I'm here, I apologize. Councilor Killick is also in the room today. Any changes to the agenda, committee members? I don't see nothing. I don't see anything. So I'm going to adopt the February 14th, 2022 Community Living Standing Committee meeting agenda. Moving on to appointments, I have Mr. Druitt, Mr. Henry, blessed board members, and they're going to provide us with a blessed presentation. Also, a pleasure to have Cheryl Dumont from St. Albert Further Education. I see her on the screen, and I see my good friend Leo Vicks, treasurer of the St. Albert Housing Society as well. And nice to see you, nice to join. Happy Valentine's Day, Leo and Cheryl. And I know some people call it a hallmark, but you know what? At my age, I'll take love from wherever I can get it. Anyways, today, no. I take that back. Anyways, so just usually for the people presenting this morning, I will give 7 minutes. It's not quite as strict as council, so please don't feel rushed. But I will give it a minimum of 7 minutes. I will, if you go over that too much, I will gently nudge you in the direction of wrapping up. However, we're pleased to have Bless here this morning, and they're going to give us a presentation. And I understand, Mr. Druitt, you're going to lead off, and Mr. Henry will actually provide all the substance. Is that true?
That's correct, yes.
All right. Okay, go ahead whenever you like, and thank you very much for attending, as I said previously.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to make this presentation. We don't have anything that I think is really contentious to talk about. It's more a matter of just giving the members of council an update on the key issues that we're going to be working on and making possible presentations on in the future during 2022. I'd sent an outline of our presentation. We have 5 items that I'm just going to run through quite quickly. The first item was actually an announcement that we heard from Ducks Unlimited. They run a program called the Wetland Center of Excellence. They run it at several locations all across Canada, and it's been very successful in the past. They've just announced that for the first time, they're going to run the program in Alberta. It's never been run in Alberta before, and they've selected Lois Hole Park in St. Albert to be the location where they're going to do this. So we think that that's really good news for St. Albert, a real feather in our cap. And we're just looking forward to working with them and coordinating their program with our programs, including we have a kids program that we run in the summer, and also our World Migratory Bird Day event that will take place actually on May 14th. So put that in your calendar. And we want to work with them on those 2 projects to make sure that they're quite complementary. The second item that I wanted to mention was the municipal development plan designation for the land south of Meadowview Drive. Again, this is actually good news that last year it was a contentious issue in that the municipal development plan, the new one, designated that land to be future employment area, i.e. industrial land. Council approved that designation in the spring, but then subsequently passed a unanimous motion at the end of May to change it to public open space. And we were very pleased by that decision of council. It still has to be implemented fully in 2022. And we're looking forward to working or ensuring that that does happen. We also feel that if it's combined with other planning issues like the Lakeview Industrial Area Structure Plan, that it can be very positive for everybody involved. It's an opportunity to make some other planning decisions that will be really great for the west side of St. Albert. So we recommend that a comprehensive approach be taken to the planning for that area. A similar parcel that and this is the third item on our agenda, it's the 90-acre parcel in the very southwest corner of St. Albert, which is also designated to be future industrial lands. And we feel that that designation in the municipal development plan contradicts the city's Red Willow plan, and it also contradicts the province's plan for the land. They bought the land specifically to incorporate it in Lois Hole Park. They've already put up signs around the parcel showing the boundary of the park, including that parcel of land. So we feel the logical thing to do is to have the municipal development plan show that as being public open space, because that's what the landowner intends it to be and what the users of the land. And there are already lots of users of that land. There's a trail system running across it. The trail has actually recently been named by the province the Meadow Trail. If the municipal development plan is implemented, that trail will run between a bunch of warehouses, maybe, which we think is a bit ironic, shall we say. Anyway, the fourth item is phase 2 of the Ray Gibbon Drive widening. And this is also a good news item. We have a really excellent relationship, I think, with Dean Schick. He's listened to our suggestions and in some cases, I think, made some modifications to the city's construction plans, particularly for the bridge over the river. He notified us just recently that the city is planning, when they're building the bridge, which has just started, they're planning to see if they can raise the trail underneath, the Red Willow Trail underneath the bridge, which will reduce the amount of flooding that occurs in the spring. They're also looking at having a wildlife corridor on the north side of the river underneath that bridge. They've got a report being prepared into the possibility of putting fencing to deter wildlife crossings of the road. They've also said that they won't be building the multi-use trail on the west side of the road, north of the river, at least for the time being, because that is a very sensitive, part of Lois Hole Park, that shoreline is perhaps the most sensitive piece of environmental land in the whole of the city of St. Albert. So they're not going to build a trail as part of this stage of the widening. The trail on the east side will be sufficient to handle all of the bicycle traffic and so forth. And the last item that I've got on my list is just some longer term transportation issues that we don't really want to get into the details of them in this presentation or any sort of contentious arguments, but we are questioning some of the long-term planning for that sector of the city of St. Albert and also that sector of the city of Edmonton. The three items that I've mentioned are the future road that is planned to run. It's an arterial road that's planned in the city of Edmonton to run along the north boundary of the the Trumpeter neighborhood. We don't feel that that's needed now that Ray Gibbon has been built. It was actually specified prior to Ray Gibbon and the Hendy being built as the main connection going east at the west end of what is now Leclerc Way. Along with that, we would like the future extension of Leclerc Way down to 137th Avenue to be kept to the absolute minimum necessary to service the land on either side of it. And lastly, we are questioning the ultimate designation for Ray Gibbon Drive. The city's transportation plan envisaged the possibility that it would be an 8-lane freeway. That actually contradicts the environmental plan that was done in 2003 at the time of originally building Ray Gibbon Drive, which said that probably a 4-lane arterial was the most that would ever be needed. So we would like for that designation, the ultimate designation, to be reconsidered. And having that as the ultimate designation does have significant impact on what is being built now and what is being planned for the area. If it was eventually a major freeway running through the west side of St. Albert, it affects where there can be intersections and things like that. So anyway, that's as much as I wanted to say. I probably have used my 7 minutes now, and I'll turn it back to you guys.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. Any questions for Mr. Druitt or Mr. Henry? Any questions at all? I did take advantage of reviewing your document that you submitted. Thank you very much. And I was aware of some of those things. I mean, and I appreciate the great working relationship that we have now between Bless and some city administration and council. And I'm, you know, some of the points you raised in relation to the future arterial roads are certainly still open to a lot of discussion. I think when the master plan came in a number of years ago and the look of what Ray Gibbon was planned to be with overpasses and 8-lane or freeway certainly has changed somewhat. So I'm not sure if there's anything that needs to be changed or altered in our transportation plan, but I mean, I think that'll be open for future discussions at another time. But I'm glad that we're working well together. Mayor Herron has a comment or a question.
Yeah, I just wondered if the two of you could put all those 3 points, or is it 4 if you include the transportation stuff, into a document so we actually have that. It's
a Word document.
Is the whole thing here?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I might not have gotten the whole thing, but perfect, because then we can take it away and make sure we don't forget the points that you've brought up today. That's all.
Actually, I'm still on, I guess.
Yeah, you're still on. Yep, you're still here.
Well, I did have a really productive conversation with Councillor Killick, and he suggested that it would be really useful to have a diagram just showing what I'm talking about when I talk about the extension of Leclerc Way and so forth. So I'll be very pleased to put all this in a document that I can submit to council, just outlining in somewhat more detail and you know, what we're concerned about and what our suggestions are, and include a diagram specifically showing where the Leclerc Way extension will run and why we feel that the parcel of land on the west side of that extension should actually be designated open space and so forth. So kind of, you know, it'll be a document that will just provide elaboration on the presentation outline that I sent to you guys. So I'd be pleased to do that.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me.
Any I mean, I can't see, sorry, Sheena, with the screens the way they are, I can't see if you have any questions. I see Councillor Mansky. Any questions or comments? Nope, now I can see you. Nope.
No, I'm good, thanks.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. I appreciate you taking time to come before us and update us. And if that's everything, we'll move on.
Well, thank you very much. That we really appreciate the opportunity.
All right, great. Thank you very much. I have Ms. Dumont right now here and next on my list. It's always nice to see you, Cheryl. Thank you very much. Like I said, go ahead. I'll give you 7 minutes or whatever you need.
Okay, I'm actually going to speak to Further Ed just very quickly, and then I'll move on to St. Albert Housing and introduce Leo, if that's okay, because we did ask for 2 spots here.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay. Yeah, so with Further Education, we really want to come before you as a group and just say some thank yous. Because we have opened, as you know, a Newcomer Connections program in town. We've been working with many people from our immigrant and refugee committee and community here in town. And the funds that were provided through FCSS for this program allowed us to hire a Newcomer coordinator last February, the middle of February. And by the 1st of April, she was out meeting community partners, etc. And by the end of December, she'd actually helped about 100 new immigrants to our city. Some here as little as 4 days, and some that have been here for a couple of years and are still struggling. So this kind of work we're looking to put together in a report and share with the city. But we really did want to thank you for that funding from FCSS. As a result of this Newcomer Connection program, we have also got a Newcomer Men's program where we have a group of volunteer men from the immigrant community that have been here about 10 to 12 years, and they are voluntarily running education programs for immigrant men in our community. And then, of course, we have our Women's Building Bridges Club, which is immigrant women and our volunteer tutors that have been here for many years from many parts of the world that meet and help each other with issues. And we're just now poised to open our 3rd program underneath that Newcomer Connection program. And that program is the Newcomer Entrepreneur and Job Skills Program. That particular program, we're working in partnership with NABI, here in town, active community programs in Edmonton, and also our Chamber of Commerce, and our library has been somewhat alongside of us as well. So that's a program where we'll be providing not only English language, which we of course do at St. Albert Further Education for newcomers, but many job and life skills, essential skills, financial skills, etc. And also we have helped a number of people now start their own business. So we're now going to be doing this through the entrepreneurial and job skills program in a much more dedicated way and with partners. So again, we have grown because of this. We were 3 part-time staff. We are now 5 staff, 2 being part-time. We are possibly opening a 2nd location in our mall because we need the exposure and we need to be where our newcomers are, and the mall is one of the places where our newcomers are. So we'll keep you up to date with that. And finally, I will just thank you for the use of the Little White Schoolhouse. Through the pandemic, we have had some classes that absolutely had to be run in person, and the Little White Schoolhouse gave us the larger venue because we couldn't use our public schools, of course, in order to run a few of those classes for those that needed education. Yeah, so we're doing lots of other grant writing and very hopeful that the provincial government and then the federal government will take over the funding of this particular program for St. Albert Further Education. So having said that, if there are any questions just about further education, I'm glad to entertain them before I start on.
I don't see anything other than to say thank you very much. Congratulations for all your work. I know on my involvement, when I have been involved, I mean, you just pack so much into so many different areas. So thank you very much for everything you do. I know I've said that to you probably 100 times, but it just gives me another opportunity.
Well, thank you very much. You know, I don't do anything alone. I have a great staff.
Yeah.
And we have about 120 volunteers that work with us for many of our programs. Down a little bit because of the pandemic, but we're rebuilding our volunteer programs. So that's great. So thank you very, very much. Watch for a new website, probably coming out in April.
Yeah, no, congratulations.
Okay, thank you. And we are now moving on to St. Albert Housing Society. Both Leo, our Secretary Treasurer, and myself, your Chair, are here. And again, we wanted to both give you an update and say some thank yous. So I'll just quickly start and then I will turn it over to Leo. I want to make an announcement actually. First, the announcement is a formal announcement that our bungalow project, where we bought an older home, renovated it and turned it into an upper and then a lower legal suite. The funding we got for that was approximately in May of last year. And by October, we had 2 very needy families in that particular project. So we're very happy about that. The women and their children are settled nicely, and they're very well accepted by the community around them. And we hope to do many more of these. So that's turning one site into 2, and we've been focusing on mainly women that are leaving violent situations. So we have been working with Martel House and Family Resource Center and SAFE, in that particular area. When we hope to do more, we had some grants that were in front of them, none of them fit the particular projects that we're looking at right now. But we do know that there'll be another announcement through the Rural Development Network, like the Reaching Home grant that was there, probably in April is what we're hearing. So we're looking forward to applying and hopefully getting another grant that will allow us to put a down payment on a home and turn it into 2 very valuable suites. We believe in mixed housing. This does mix our housing in the various neighborhoods in town. We have a new website that's already open and running, and we would be really happy for you to take a look at that when you get a moment, because we're quite proud of it. And part of that website enables some donations to go directly to our Home Connection program. You know, that's our charitable arm. And that particular program helps individual families with children that even with some lower rents still are not able to make their ends meet. It's lovely to announce that local businesses and service clubs and a Reaching Home grant for this particular project has given us $16,000 over the last maybe 8 months or so that allow us to continue to do that important work. And I guess the very last thing before turning it over to Leo is that we have a very active fundraising committee as well as a project development committee. Project development is looking very, very much at some opportunities in St. Albert, and we will certainly be coming before council again and looking for some opportunities for support there. With the fundraising that we've done in the past, it's been mainly the breakfast. We're changing that to a lunch. Coming up this October. We'll get a date to you as soon as we can. As you know, COVID has really prohibited us from having that fundraiser the last little while. But beyond that, we're looking at working with AGLC to enable us to do a draw or 2 throughout the year that will raise money. All of this money, of course, goes to the Home Connections program. We are working with a local restaurant to do some fundraising. We're doing a social media campaign and a few other things as well. But I'll finish there. Again, we just want to say thank you for the support that you've given us, make these announcements, and I'm going to turn it over to Leo, who is our treasurer. Thank you.
Good morning. Am I coming through?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Good morning and happy Valentine's Day back to you as well. So I've just got one item that I wanted to add to Cheryl's comment. And that is to do with the outside agency funding review process that is underway. I think now it's opportune in the fact that we brought that notion forward, in past years here as well. And our situation here at the Housing Society, is unique. The nature of our operations compared to other community organizations that receive funding under the outside agency funding program, we are a little bit different. And the major fundamental difference is that the society owns real estate and has associated debt that demands meeting financial covenants, such as debt service coverage and the like. Expenses such as interest, property taxes are not considered under the outside agency funding program, and a separate operating grant funding model, I think, is required that it takes into account the costs associated with real estate investing, and that is longer term in nature is required. I'm not sure who is involved from administration and in the review process here, but we look forward to working together with the administration on this and hopefully paving a way forward that will help address the lack of affordable housing here in St. Albert. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Leo. I appreciate that. Yeah, as you may be aware, council actually did have a workshop recently around some of the principles and guidelines around that moving forward in relation to our outside agency granting and other funding allocations that the city provides. I'm sure
I tried to view that. I'm sorry.
You tried to view that?
Yeah, the workshop on last Monday, but I don't know if it was a technical problem at my end or your end or whatever, but I wasn't able to get access to it. But I see that in my email that my internet connection is unstable. It says right now, but am I still coming through?
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's better than the presenter or anything being unstable. It's better than the internet.
Yeah, for sure.
The point on that is, I guess we did have some issues on our side, but it is on our YouTube channel now, Leo. So you should be able to catch it there.
Yeah.
Any comments?
Yeah, I saw this morning.
Go ahead, finish.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I guess Cheryl had finally tracked it down, and I saw something that she forwarded to me about 5 a.m. this morning, but I wasn't quite up then, so I haven't had a chance to view it. But in any event, I'll start there with the review of that. But I think that it's important for us to start looking at this seriously and hope that we can address the need for more affordable housing here in St. Albert. So.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee members or Mr. Killick or Councillor Killick, pardon me, in relation to the presentations from Ms. Dumont or Mr. Bills? I don't know.
No, I'm good. Yeah.
No, we're good. I appreciate it again, everything. I had one question, Cheryl. The bungalow project with the 2 needy families, is that second stage housing? And do they have time limits on how long they can actually stay in the home, or is it active plan to move them through the process and move them into others' housing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Ken. Basically, it's third stage housing. And in this particular case, we expect as people move through these 2 units that they'll be there anywhere between 3 months and likely 18 months is what we understand by working with different partners in this field. It will really depend on what the financial system is as they work with the partners partners that they've left allow them to do, whether they'll then, move on and buy and market a property, or whether they'll move into one of our other units or into another market unit. So that's what we're expecting, that people will move through, and it will really depend at the stage that they're in with getting the education that they need, maybe perhaps finding a job, but also settling those legal and financial things that occur in situations like this where you're leaving an abusive situation. So we're very open, and we work very closely with both units.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Again, it's being formally involved in some of those needs of providing services to vulnerable families. I'm sure it's very needed and it's very well appreciated. So thank you again. I don't see any other questions, so thank you again for your presentations, and you can log off and we'll move into the rest of our agenda.
Okay, thank you. And I want to thank Anna, because Anna was the one that pointed me to the YouTube presentation. So thank you, Anna, for all your help with that. Okay, bye now.
Bye, thank you. Nice seeing you again, Leo.
Yeah, you too, Kat. Thanks.
Moving on then to the approval of the minutes. We've got 5.1. Did anybody review any of the minutes from our last Community Living Standing Committee of January 17th? Any concerns or changes? Seeing nothing going once, going twice, gone. I'm going to just adopt the January 17th meeting minutes. And we're moving on to 6.0, which is advisory committee business. And first thing is the committee minutes and agenda items that are from some of our advisory committees. We have the January 5th Youth Advisory Committee, the January 19th Seniors Advisory Committee, January 25th Community Services Advisory Committee, January 26th, the Arts Committee, and the Environmental Committee unadopted minutes from January 27th. Did anybody review anything, any concerns there in relation to any of those minutes in our agenda package?
Oh, I did review them.
All right, they're reviewed. So there's a recommended motion. Can I get somebody to actually, because those are actually subcommittee or community advisory, or pardon me,
I could do it.
council advisory committee, sorry. I apologize for that. Can I get just somebody to read in that recommended motion?
I can do it.
The mayor's got it right there.
Sure. That the adopted minutes from the January 5th, 2022 meeting of the Youth Advisory Committee, the unadopted minutes of the January 19th, 2022 meeting of the Seniors Advisory Committee, unadopted minutes of the January 25th, 2022 meeting of the Community Service Advisory Committee, the unadopted minutes of the January 26th, 2022 meeting of the Arts Development Advisory Committee, and the unadopted minutes of the January 27th, 2022 meeting of the Environmental Advisory Committee, all be received as information.
Thank you very much. I don't think there'll be, no, there won't be anything. So I'm going to accept that. I'm going to call the vote right now. Just raise your hand, Shelley, and she and I can see them. And it's all unanimous. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And then we're going to be moving on. Next thing on the agenda, and my computer is frozen. Please forgive me for a second here. I think it's the poet laureate, is it not? Go ahead, then let's just move right into it. Who's presenting on that?
Hi, I'm Kathleen Bell.
Hi,
Can you see me?
welcome. Yeah, we can hear you fine. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Welcome and go ahead.
Okay, I just am going to share my screen. Share, and then I will start the slides. Okay, does it look right?
Yes, that's very good. Thank you, Kathy.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to start with a little bit of history. So in 2016, a Belrose High School student reached out to the city and the St. Albert Public Library to suggest the creation of a St. Albert Poet Laureate program. Recognizing the impact of similar programs in Edmonton and area, the library and the community services partnered to deliver St. Albert's first Poet Laureate program. In 2018, Zach Polis was selected as the city's first Poet Laureate. In 2020, as a commitment to residents and to provide administration with strategic direction, Council Policy CAO 24 was drafted, passed, and executed for the first time with the appointment of Julia Sorensen as our second Poet Laureate. So what is the role of Poet Laureate? Traditionally, a Poet Laureate is a poet officially appointed by a government or conferring institution, typically expected to compose poems for special events and occasions. In St. Albert, our Poet Laureate fills an honorary position with a 2-year term. The role serves the community as a literary ambassador who champions poetry, language, and the arts. They also represent the city as laureate during readings at civic functions and public poetry events. So just to briefly go over the policy, the purpose of the policy is to support the development of a robust cultural and literary community in St. Albert by establishing the position of Poet Laureate. The policy recognizes the shared responsibility of the City of St. Albert and the St. Albert Public Library to fulfill the requirements of the program. Council appoints a Poet Laureate every 2 years during National Poetry Month in April. And then just to briefly review the criteria and duties, applicants for the role of Poet Laureate must be a resident of St. Albert or have a significant connection with St. Albert, as well as being at least 16 years of age or older. Annually, the Poet Laureate is required to produce original work, perform at public events, and deliver literary programs. Today, we are here to recommend a process for the appointment of this year's selection committee in order to have a new Poet Laureate in place for April. In 2018, the library led the selection process, and that responsibility was again conferred to the CEO of the library in 2020 once the policy was passed. Today, we are asking for a similar process to be followed, and we recommend that Council assign the task of reviewing applications and recommending a person for the appointment by Council as Poet Laureate for St. Albert to an independent Poet Laureate committee or panel appointed by the CEO of the St. Albert Public Library, and that said committee be required to include one member of the Arts Development Advisory Committee. Are there any questions?
I don't know yet. Showing my screen, Kathleen here. Any questions from committee members? I'm just waiting for everybody. I like the idea of including an Arts Development Advisory Committee representative. I think that's a good idea, and I'm glad that that's been proposed. So thank you very much for that. Mayor Herron has a comment or a question.
Kathleen, I mean, supportive of everything in front of us and the program in general. The last 2 Poet Laureates have been fantastic. My concern is they're not utilized enough. And I'm wondering how we can coordinate asking them to compose and read poetry more frequently at events. I sometimes just don't think of it. And I think it should be more prominent, I guess is what I'm saying. For example, on Monday, I'm doing a proclamation on Pink Shirt Day. Would have been a good chance for the poet to come and talk about bullying and something. So I don't know if you could maybe, sit with my staff or something to just kind of talk about how we make that connection and that thought process a little bit more frequent, because it's a great program and I want to utilize it more. That's the only comments that I had.
I love that idea. Of course.
I don't know if we need to involve the library with that or how that works. I'll just leave it in your hands to try to see how we can identify more times to ask the poet to come out and speak.
Awesome, for sure. We'll definitely do that.
All right. Oh, excellent. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I don't see any, nothing at all. So can I have somebody put the recommended motion on the floor? And I don't have any, just shout it out. Sometimes when I lose the screen a little bit here, sorry.
I can do it if you want, Ken.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes, go ahead.
The council assigned the task of reviewing applications and recommending a person for appointment by council as Poet Laureate for St. Albert to an independent Poet Laureate committee or panel appointed by the CAO of the St. Albert Public Library, and that said committee will be required to include one member of the Arts Development Advisory Committee.
Thank you very much. Any comments, questions before? No, I'll accept that. Any opening comments?
This is pretty straightforward. I appreciate the amendment that you're bringing forward, and I'm looking forward to seeing the selection that comes in April. That's it.
Thank you very much. I don't see anybody else entering debate or comments, so I'm going to call the question. All in favor, just raise your hand on screen. And that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Well done. Thank you again, Kathleen. I appreciate you presenting. Moving on to 7.2, the community satisfaction survey results. And oh, hi, Cindy. Nice seeing you.
Good morning.
Are you presenting?
I will start us off.
Great.
So good morning, everybody. Every second year, the City of St. Albert contracts a third-party research firm to conduct a statistically valid resident survey on community satisfaction. The survey was conducted between November 4th and December 12th of 2021, and 682 residents of varied representation provided their feedback on subjects like quality of life, satisfaction with city services and programs, and value for tax dollar. So the report is a snapshot in time that reflects resident perspective on perceived services and does not provide for contextual information of global or local influences at that time. I am pleased to introduce the pivotal research team who was contracted to conduct this survey, and they're here with us this morning to review the findings. So a warm welcome to Doha Melham, Rainer Kochis, Stella Iguamaka, and Jihad Melham, who will now provide us with the presentation. Doha?
Sure, good morning. I'm pleased to present the results of the 2021 St. Albert Community Satisfaction Survey. The goal of the study, as Cindy has mentioned, is to gauge general attitudes towards living in St. Albert and resident quality of life. The opinions and perceptions of residents were ascertained across a number of issues, including overall quality of life, satisfaction with city services and programs, feelings of safety and security, value for property tax dollars, including preferred municipal tax strategy, experience with city communications and preferred information channels, and priorities for the new city council. By collecting this important feedback from St. Albert residents, we offer some conclusions about what municipal programs and services the city administration and council should prioritize to enhance citizen satisfaction, quality of life, and value for taxes. The research project entailed fielding a statistically valid survey that relied on a multi-pronged recruitment approach alongside an open link survey to expand the city's engagement reach. For the statistically valid survey, data collection took place between November 4th, 2021 and December 12th, 2021. Respondents were recruited using a mail-to-web survey that was sent to 10,000 St. Albert residences via Canada Post and supplemented with data from respondents recruited through an online panel and targeted social media advertisements. The content of the mail-to-web survey was provided via open link to the city, which was deployed as a public engagement tool on the city's website. In total, 447 responses were collected from the from the open link survey. In terms of our analytical approach, age and gender weights were applied to the survey data collected in alignment with the 2016 census data. Data analysis included applying tabulations and cross-tabulations, comparing responses by various demographic factors using appropriate statistical tests. Regression analysis was also used to rank performance and satisfaction of various services to produce key driver indicators of quality of life and citizen satisfaction. Overall, 682 St. Albert residents over the age of 18 completed the statistically valid survey. A majority of respondents indicated that they have lived in the city of St. Albert for over 20 years, and most reported having children younger than 18 in their household currently. As you can see here, around 26% of respondents were between the ages of 18 and 34, followed by 20% of those who are over the age of 65. We also see a close split in terms of gender. Respondents were asked to rate their perceived quality of life in St. Albert. Quality of life was defined in the survey as the degree to which an individual's needs are satisfied in all aspects of life, such as health, comfort, safety, social, spiritual, and ecological needs, as well as the need for intellectual, cultural, and physical development. Nearly all respondents, 96%, reported that their overall quality of life in St. Albert is either good or very good. St. Albert's parks, trails, and natural areas are cited by 60% of respondents as a top factor contributing to high quality of life. Recreation, such as access to fitness facilities and youth, family programming, came in second at 44%. Top factors that reduce quality of life include traffic and public transit, roadway repair and maintenance, and planning and land development. Next slide. As you can see here, we applied a key driver analysis to further understand what the city should prioritize in terms of improvement areas to enhance the quality of life indicator. So you can see here, the top right-hand upper quadrant shows you the service areas that would be considered core strengths for the city, as they are considered high impact to residents of St. Albert and contribute to a high level of perceived quality of life. These are emergency response services, recreation services, and police services. The right-hand lower quadrant shows you the service areas that are of high importance to residents, but that impact residents' perceived quality of life and could be considered prime target improvement areas for the city. These are planning and land development, business attraction and local business services, movement and transportation, bylaw enforcement, licensing and permits, and roadway repair and maintenance. The left-hand upper quadrant shows you secondary strengths, and the left-hand lower quadrant shows you second level target improvement areas. But definitely the ones on the right hand, lower and upper quadrants, are ones to be looking at. Next slide. We conducted some quality of life indicator comparisons across the region. As you can see here, St. Albert is ahead of the pack. So we looked at municipalities within the Edmonton metropolitan region, and then we also looked at some comparable municipalities to St. Albert in the rest of Alberta. Next slide. We asked respondents about their citizen satisfaction. Overall, a majority of respondents are either satisfied or very satisfied with services, facilities, and programs provided by the City of St. Albert. Satisfaction levels varied by neighborhood, age group, household composition, and length of residence in the city. So we did some digging. We dug deeper there in those demographic factors. And for example, we see that residents of St. Albert between the ages of 25 to 34 years have the highest level of satisfaction with a city service experience at 71%. Households in St. Albert with children between 6 and 11 years old are the household type most satisfied, very satisfied with overall city services and programs, followed by household with no children under 18 years. And longtime St. Albert residents of over 20 years express the highest levels of satisfaction with the city experience. Next slide. Again, we ran a key driver analysis here to dig deeper into the drivers of satisfaction from the residents' perspectives. There are various city services considered highly important to citizens that are either positively impacting or reducing perceived citizen satisfaction. You can see here, recreation and police services are core quality of life strengths that also generate high satisfaction levels for citizens. Cultural services and customer service are also important to the resident of St. Albert and are also sources of high satisfaction. On the other hand, bylaw enforcement and business attraction services were again selected as critical service areas that are important to residents but are negatively impacting perceived citizen satisfaction. Public communication is another high impact service area that sits relatively low on perceived satisfaction. Next slide. We also conducted here regional comparisons to see how other municipalities in the region are scoring with key drivers of satisfaction. Service areas that score high marks for satisfaction are of high importance to St. Albert residents, which we consider our core strengths, tended to receive similar scores in other municipalities. For instance, customer service received relatively high satisfaction scores in virtually all municipalities examined. Police services are a high satisfaction, high impact service area in Morinville, Leduc, Sturgeon County, and Beaumont. However, the service area received relatively low satisfaction scores in a single comparator municipality, Grand Prairie. Recreation services are an area where St. Albert outperforms the pack compared to, for instance, Morinville and Grand Prairie residents who rank recreation services as low satisfaction. Cultural services also received relatively high satisfaction scores in St. Albert and in Grand Prairie. So, you know, when we were doing those regional comparisons on the key drivers of satisfaction, not all municipalities conducted that sort of deeper dive analysis. So we were able to find through the municipalities examined for quality of life indicator, we were able to sort of do some a deeper dive into their satisfaction score key driver analysis. Areas that St. Albert residents feel are of relatively high importance, but which received relatively low satisfaction scores, which tend to be considered as targets for improvements, are generally also in the same category as other municipalities. We see that for public communication. Across the region is a high impact, low satisfaction service. Business attraction is also high impact in Beaumont and received relatively low satisfaction scores. And while bylaw enforcement is a high impact, low satisfaction service area in both St. Albert and Morinville, it actually received relatively high satisfaction scores in Sturgeon County. Next, more than 1/3 of residents had contacted a City of St. Albert employee in the past 24 months. So if those who had that experience with a City of St. Albert employee in the past 2 years, nearly 80% are satisfied or very, very satisfied with the service experience provided by city employees. Respondents were asked about the methods and channels they use to conduct business in the city, such as paying bills or obtaining permits online, in person, and over the phone in the past 2 years. Close to 4 in 10 St. Albertans indicate that City Hall fully meets or exceeds their needs. And around 1/3 of residents feel that the methods and channels to conduct business with the city meets their needs. Around 4 in 10 respondents recommend the city should make more services available online. And approximately the same number indicate that a single portal to make bill payments and obtain licenses and permits would improve the experience of doing business with City Hall. On to safety and security. When residents were asked to indicate the extent to which they feel safe and secure in their community, more than 90% of St. Albert residents feel safe or very safe and secure in their community. Theft and burglary are the most frequently selected concern for safety and security for St. Albertans. This is followed by vandalism and drugs in the community. St. Albertans are also concerned with overall road safety, including traffic safety, speeding, and safety of cyclists and pedestrians. In terms of communication, more than half, about 57% of respondents either agree or strongly agree that the City of St. Albert makes information available through a wide variety of communication channels and methods. A majority of respondents rely on St. Albert Gazette to receive information about the city, followed by 4 in 10 receive information via the city's website, and close to 40% receive information about the city through social media channels. These same top methods of communication are the ones that are residents' top preferred methods of receiving information. So you see here, the St. Alberta Gazette, city's website, and specifically within social media channels, Facebook is a preferred communication or information channel. We dug deeper into various demographic factors to understand preferences for communication methods. So in addition to the top 3 preferred methods of communication, respondents who identify as women, girl, and man, boy have almost equal preference for receiving information about the city through the T8N magazine and the St. Albert Today. Those who identify as women, girl also have a high preference for receiving information from the city through Instagram, while those identifying as male, boy have a greater liking for receiving information through Twitter, the Edmonton Journal, Edmonton Sun, and radio podcast. And while those 55 years and over indicate a preference for the St. Albert Gazette, those in the age group 18 to 34 years have a higher preference for receiving information from the city through social media. About 10% respondents in the 35 to 44 age group show keenness for receiving information from the city through radio podcasts. Okay. So now on to the municipal tax strategy and value for tax dollars. 8 in 10 respondents indicated that they own rather than rent a home within the city. So we asked specifically a subset of respondents who are the homeowners about their perspectives on value for property tax dollars. When asked about the value they receive for their municipal property taxes, 77% of St. Albert homeowners think that the value of their taxes are fair or better. The top 3 services that homeowners in St. Albert perceive as high value for their tax dollars are social services and supports, emergency response services, and local business services. On the other hand, the services that homeowners perceive as low value for their tax dollars are planning and land development, movement and transportation, and Indigenous truth and reconciliation. When asked about their preference for the next 5 years, just over half of homeowners say they would prefer to keep their tax bill at the current level, even if it results in some services being reduced. Close to a third would prefer to maintain service level and pay more taxes. And only 1% of homeowners prefer enhancing service levels, resulting in a significant tax increase. So it's about, it's about 30% of homeowners that would be okay with a tax increase. Those who opt for a tax-free strategy for the next 5 years are willing to accept a reduction in the following services: cultural services, Indigenous truth and reconciliation, and library services. For those who opt for a tax increase strategy for the next 5 years, a little more than a quarter, about 27%, would prefer a 5% increase. Then we asked all respondents about services that should be protected from any reductions in service levels. Close to half of respondents believe that police services should be protected from any reductions. Next slide. Respondents were asked to provide their opinions on what they think should be the top priorities for the term of St. Albert's new city council. Respondents expect the municipal budget and tax strategy to be the new city council's top strategy, followed by movement and transportation, road repair and maintenance, business attraction services, and small business supports, and community health, specifically around mental health. Priorities generated by survey respondents were analyzed by age group. The top 2 priorities of St. Albertans between the ages of 35 and 65 plus years are the city's tax strategy and movement and transportation, specifically traffic flow and control. And then St. Albertans between the ages of 18 and 34 tend to prioritize business and economic development and environmental protection as sort of priority areas that drive them. We also did some comparative analysis across the Edmonton metropolitan area with regards to looking at sort of priorities of city council election platforms. And we see that the priorities to new city council voiced by St. Albertans in this survey align on many fronts with priorities from city council election platforms and other municipal governments in the area. So now on to key considerations. In 2021, the City of St. Albert's quality of life indicator, satisfaction score, and service experience levels have continued to perform at a high level. Survey results also show that St. Albertans think they're receiving fair or better value for their property tax dollars. Where the City Council and administration would want to focus on for the new term are the service areas that are reducing residents' perceived quality of life and citizen satisfaction, along with those services that residents note are not bringing them good value for their tax dollars. Some of those same service areas are ones that are also high on St. Albertans' strategic priorities for the new City Council. So in addition to a cogent municipal budget and tax strategy, the City of St. Albert should consider evaluating, implementing improvement areas, and promulgating new initiatives in several key municipal services. Firstly, movement and transportation related services are a critical focus area that the City of St. Albert should prioritize for improvement. These services are currently weighing down quality of life and perceptions of value for service and traffic safety. This service area is also a priority that residents want to see the new City Council focusing on in the new term. Roadway repair and maintenance are service areas closely aligned with movement and transportation in our strategic areas that are impacting perceived quality of life in the city. They are one of the top priorities for residents, as seen through the survey results as well. Business attraction services is another high importance service area that is currently impacting the city's perceived quality of life indicator and citizen satisfaction score, and has a relatively lower perceived value. Additionally, strategies focus on attracting more businesses and investments into the city are a high priority for City Council, according to survey respondents. The city might want to consider elevating the strategic priority and revising its current tactics to meet pressing needs for increasing revenues through business development. Business attraction services would need to be further assessed within the context of facilitating permitting and licenses, a service area currently impacting quality of life, in order to unleash a vibrant business environment in the city. Public communication is one of those high impact service areas, according to city residents, that the city might want to improve upon by diversifying channels of communication and information to meet diverse generational needs. Prioritizing transparency and communication and increasing information access would also help shore up citizen satisfaction scores. Closely aligned with public communication is customer service, which is another service area that survey respondents want improvements to enhance their citizen satisfaction. Specifically, the city should consider improving customer service by optimizing the inquiry response time. Planning and land development is a strategic service area that goes hand in hand with allowing the city to effectively achieve some of its desired business attraction strategies and spurring business development, economic revitalization, while diversifying living options for a growing city population. Currently, planning and land development is impacting the city's quality of life indicator, and residents feel that this particular line of municipal services has relatively perceived low value for taxpayer dollars. The city might want to consider evaluating the service area and improving key performance indicators. Land development permit and license services could also be reevaluated to realign with improvements to land planning and development services. Lastly, bylaw enforcement. Bylaw enforcement is an area of high importance for residents of St. Albert. The city might want to consider investing more resources in this area to ensure that citizen complaints are responded to in a timely manner and addressed swiftly. This concludes my remarks. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, Dawn. You might need a drink of water too. I appreciate that. There you go.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I enjoyed reading this. I have a couple of questions or comments. I'll start off anyways. I'll at least ask the first couple anyways. I really appreciate the comparisons that were in the document compared to some of our regional partners. I found that of value. One comparison that I was looking for was similar to what was happening in our last survey. Were we measuring similar areas, and did we get similar results, or did we just totally come up with a whole new survey?
I'll speak, and I'll also let Cindy speak as well. This round of the survey, something new took place, which is conducting a key driver analysis on satisfaction. And it's the relationship of the correlation between satisfaction with service levels service offerings. So that did not take place before in previous St. Albert community satisfaction surveys. So this is why we're able to do some of those regional comparisons. I'm not sure if the last survey did regional comparisons on quality of life, Cindy.
There was some information on that. So thank you for the question, Councillor Mackay. We tried to keep, so that we could have year-over-year comparators, we tried to keep the fundamental or the foundational questions and the themes all quite similar. But Pivotal had recommended that we slightly modify how we ranked the satisfaction and how we framed that question on programs and services. And that was in order to be able to do that key driver analysis that she identified. So historically, we received information, but we didn't necessarily know what was maybe driving that or what we could do about that. So as indicated in your agenda report, the goal now is after council receives this information, we'll be able to meet with each department, review the results. Communications is a fundamental part of that, as well as strategic services and IT. And so we can sit down, go through all the results and find out what we could tackle, I guess, each department in order to start working on some of that continuous improvement piece. So yes, there was lots of similarities in terms of the overall themes. There were a couple of questions that we just needed to shift in order to get more useful data.
Right, and I wanted to add that, so you could ask what's driving your satisfaction, or what are those services that are high satisfaction, low satisfaction, but the key driver analysis helps city council, city administration prioritize. So it's like a prioritization tool. If I'm looking at services that are driving satisfaction negatively, then the question is, what should I prioritize for improvement? So the key driver analysis helps do that. And this is why we worked with Cindy to embed that. And surely, a lot of other municipalities do that, within their community satisfaction surveys.
All right, thank you. So, I mean, one of the observations I have is it does validate some of the work that we have put into the recovery task force that we stood up last term, because interestingly, there was alignment that I saw between recommendations that were coming out of the committee and some of the action items around the key driver, or improving the key drivers, planning, portal, a one-stop shop. I mean, those services were identified in the recovery task force. So there was some validation there, and I appreciate that. My last question is it relates, going back to the key drivers, were there, and I didn't review all of the individual questions in the survey. So when we were identifying key drivers, were respondents allowed to identify their own key drivers, or did they select from key drivers identified by the instrument, in the survey instrument?
Mm-hmm. What we did is we asked an overall question on satisfaction with overall city services, programs, and facilities, and then we dug deeper. So what we did is we asked a question on satisfaction, which of those a range of services, bring you satisfaction. So again, the scale of satisfaction, with most satisfied, very satisfied, to least satisfied. And then the key driver analysis is us crunching all of this information by service. So again, satisfaction level by service area, we took all of that and we were able to derive that. So they were just asked to select their level of satisfaction by service.
Okay, so we did identify the service. So we did identify for respondents planning and development, and they could identify whether they were satisfied or not satisfied. Okay. Because I was just wondering specifically if they pulled that out themselves or if they just responded to the question relating to that. Okay, so was there one specifically in the recreation facilities?
Yes.
Okay, and so I found that interesting that didn't appear a little bit in more. I know it was included in some of the kind of captured in a group, but I thought maybe individually it would maybe come out a little louder, but I guess that didn't. So, all right, go ahead.
Sorry, Councillor Mackay, I just want to add a little context as well. So in terms of that drop-down menu, what we had done is we took our service level inventory and categorized it into 18 broader themes so that it wasn't necessarily department specific, but it was also within, areas that the city has influence so that we can do better and we have these opportunities for improvement. So for example, historically, we've received a lot of feedback that people really like St. Albert because of the quality of schooling, or they really like St. Albert because of the proximity to the Sturgeon Community Hospital. Really great information, but not necessarily something that we could actually action as an administration on behalf of council. And so that's why we did do the drop down, is that it gave us a little bit more opportunity and a little bit more content within the realm and the span of our control.
I appreciate that clarification. Go ahead. Sorry, was there an addition?
Yes, I also wanted to say that recreation was, considered, if we go back to that quadrant, is a high satisfaction, high impact, or high importance for city of St. Albert residents. So these are considered core strengths for, yes, here, as you see, this is quality of life. Rainer, if you want to scroll just a few slides down to satisfaction. Yes, so as you see here, recreation is on a high satisfaction, high impact, and is a core strengths and performing well, along with police, cultural services, and customer service. Yeah, so it is, like you're saying, it is loud.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And the ones, and while you have that graph up, I was just curious in the bottom left-hand quadrant. So
Yes.
Were those services identified as not important to residents, or were they not receiving the attention that administration and council should be giving them? How should I read that one in the bottom left, the blue ones?
Yes, so those ones are, if you would think a little bit as sort of the gradient of importance by, from residents' perspective. And so they are sitting a bit lower on the satisfaction, but in terms of prioritizing, you want to prioritize the right hand lower quadrant. Those other ones are secondary. So they are, you can look at them as areas for improvement, but in terms of prioritization, they're not as of high importance in terms of, and the ones on your right hand side lower are more like getting more bang for your buck if you focus on them right away. So to shore up satisfaction scores. Mm-hmm.
So then if that's a key driver, then why would planning and land development be in the lower left-hand quadrant and not in the lower right-hand quadrant if we identify it as something we should maybe looking at focusing on?
Because it comes up under, if you scroll up, Rainer, into the quality of life. So we did two key drivers. Again here, so we were looking at, attributes of quality of life and satisfaction. Like we really wanted to understand and create connections and linkages. So we're, when we did that, we were able to see some threads across quality of life and citizen satisfaction, but we also some uniquenesses as well. And they're two separate analyses. This one, you do see planning and land development as high importance or high impact for St. Albert residents, but is not really high up into, impact of quality of life.
Yeah, I was just trying to see the synergies between how, the key drivers, where they graph out, and then where, how they come into the recommendations, because I agree that I think, you've identified, the survey instrument has identified obviously things very important to council and moving forward into strategic planning and action items. I think this just validates it even more. I'm just trying to see how it graphs out and where we can actually do the alignment, because
Sure. Sure. I also wanted to say how we were deriving some of our key considerations. We saw it across, so we had the key driver analysis on quality of life, that of satisfaction. There's a section in the survey where it was open-ended, and there was questions around what would improve your citizen experience. And we also analyzed that. We also looked at responses on value for tax dollars, because we dug deeper into by service. We asked by service. We also looked at the priorities that were generated by survey respondents. What were those top priorities that they thought the new city council should focus on? And we started to see some alignment that came, that was sort of across various service areas. And that's how we were like, okay, maybe you want to consider those. They keep coming up.
Yeah.
I'll stop my question. Mayor Herron has a question.
Thanks. So I guess for pivotal, so do you think, so I see like the question was, in your opinion, what would you say are the 3 top factors contributing to high quality in the city of St. Albert? If you had asked what are the top 5 or 6, do you think results would look different? Because if I was answering this, I would have a hard time deciding on 3, right? And I feel that my 4th choice is now underrepresented as a quality of life driver.
You mean like if it was just not, we're not just asking them for the top 3, if more?
If it was top 5 or just name them, right? I don't know if that would change. You're the statistical expert. What do you think that would change what we're seeing?
I'll tell you a little bit of sort of that back engineering or sort of that work or analysis that we did, which is looking at the last few years from survey responses from the community satisfaction survey at St. Albert. And we looked at what are those, it used to be an open-ended question. What are the top 3 that contribute and that, sort of detract from quality of life? And what we did is we kind of analyzed all of those and created, some sort of drop downs, but we aligned them with the service levels. We felt that that was best because, based on our conversations, what are those that the city is able to influence as opposed to things that they're not able to influence? But definitely, if we are to open it up more than 3, you would get definitely maybe more kind of selections picked.
Okay. This is maybe more of a question for Cindy. I know it's going to be hard because this is the first time we've used Pivotal to do our survey, but it is very important to council, I think, to see how we have changed over the years. So is that a process that you're going to undertake? The biggest example that I can think of right off the top of my head is I was surprised to see the number of people in St. Albert willing to take a service level reduction to keep taxes at 0 or minimal. Because in the past, we've always worked under the assumption that service level reductions are not on the table in St. Albert. And this is completely different. So I'm just wondering if you're going to be doing an analysis of comparing this one even to just the previous one. Because that's not Pivotal's job, but I think the city should be doing that.
Thanks for the question, Mayor Herron. Through the chair, that is absolutely something that we will be doing when we meet with each department to go through what this specifically means for them and the services that they provide to community. We do have some of the generic information of, year over year or survey over survey comparators. So for example, the quality of life, it went from 97% to 96%. So in light of the, global pandemic these last couple of years, I think for a lot of people that it's probably read as a pleasant surprise to see generally in St. Albert, most residents have maintained a relatively high quality of life despite what's been happening. So we do have some of that information, and we can certainly do a deeper dive if there's a specific need that council would like in advance of their strategic planning session. That's also something we could prepare for you in advance, as well as doing it at the administrative level.
Okay, yeah, I think especially for some of the newer counselors who haven't seen a satisfaction survey and can't see the glaring differences between this 1 and 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago we did it? Yeah. That's important. Those significant changes in attitudes in St. Albert. So I think more than just the departments, council probably should see a side-by-side comparison of 2 years ago and this one. As best as you can, because I know the questions are somewhat different, but the general ones. That's all.
We're also happy to do some analysis or more data collection around that, just so you'll be able to understand, maybe those comparisons or what's driving that.
Thank you. Any questions online? Nothing from Sheena. Councillor, I'll just see, I can't see Councillor Bermansky. Any question? Go ahead if you do, Shelley.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Killick.
Yeah, thank you. I noticed in the data that our numbers, if I understand it, you said 10,000 mailers were sent out and we had 680 respondents.
Mm-hmm.
When I looked at the other data, I think it said Morinville their survey had 978 people reply and Beaumont had 893. Is our number, is that consistent with what we would expect from past years? And just seems
Okay, go ahead, Cindy.
If I may, thank you, Councillor Killick, through the chair. It's interesting to note that we had 682 respondents, but that was to make sure we had a statistically representative sample with which to the answers. And that's why we have the open link surveys. So that additional 400 plus was people who wanted to provide their responses, but didn't have, they weren't part of the statistic number. We didn't include them into that piece because it would have skewed for it to be statistically representative. So it's not that only 682 wanted to, it's just that to keep it statistically valid, we kind of capped it, for lack of a better term. Doha, you probably have a more professional term than that. And then that's why we have the mail to web results, which are also included in the package at the very end as an appendix, just so council can see the results of just anybody who wanted to participate.
So maybe, Cindy, I missed that. So how many people actually did respond?
It's actually a lot. So, I think what you're looking at for the other municipality is they combined, responses received through open link and the statistically valid to show how many people in general. But, open link is usually not statistically valid. You can generalize it across. We do share the results in the appendix of the report, and we don't see major variation, from the statistically valid. The statistically valid, typically there is, a target, and the target was 600. So we've exceeded that target. So this is where we're at. These are the numbers, and they're not so different from other municipalities. It's just how they're presenting, how many people responded in total. Yeah.
So Councillor Killick, to answer your question, we had 1,129 residents participate and provide their input. In terms of what made the statistically valid representation, in 2019, just for comparative purposes, 453 residents participated in the statistically valid survey. This year, 682 did. So again, we went for close to 30% more just to make sure we were getting that accurate sample. But over 1,100 residents conducted the survey.
That makes me feel much better. Just when I saw that low number, it kind of stood out for me. Much better, thank you. One that, when was the survey actually taken? Can't recall.
Between November 12th and December 12th of 2021.
Okay, so there were some significant
Mhm.
I was surprised that specifically use planning and those kind of issues were top of mind for residents, but now understanding that we had in that time, we had two big high visibility planning issues, Oakmont development and a lot of Riverside redevelopment that could have contributed to that. And would that explain possibly the big unsmiley face? I don't know, front face on the Oakmont scale of residential neighborhood data? Because it seems so skewed to me.
It very well could, Councillor Killick. To your point, timing is everything. And that's why we really try to emphasize that this is a snapshot at a moment in time. And of course, there's never a perfect time with which to conduct this. So we did this survey simultaneously with budget debates, like you say, some major planning projects. So there's a number of factors that can certainly influence people's perspectives at that moment in time. And so again, it's not something I think that we could specifically point to, but we can certainly infer to your point that perhaps that's why Oakmont as a general community was the least satisfied.
Councillor Killick, I want to say that the results on the neighborhood analysis are only directional because there's some neighborhoods that didn't have high sample. We didn't have a lot of respondents from those neighborhoods. So we should look at that data specifically on the neighborhood by citizen satisfaction, directional.
Okay, could we go, I apologize, Councillor Mackay asked these questions, but on the key driver's side, the low satisfaction, low impact, I'd like to have just a little bit more conversation and context on that, because truth and reconciliation, I don't know, it doesn't feel right to me. I know the survey results are what they are. I'm not disputing that, but could you explain a little bit better from my understanding what that quadrant really means?
Is it the lower hand sort of on the left side?
Yeah, low satisfaction, low impact. It is a key driver of citizen satisfaction. Does that mean they're not satisfied with what we're doing there? They're not satisfied that that's where they would put their money to make a difference? I'm kind of missing something.
Yeah, based on the analysis, it was showing that, it is low importance or low impact for citizens, and it sits low on the satisfaction gradient or continuum for residents. So it is low impact at this point. It's not one of those ones that are, majorly driving or a critical factor that requires, intervention by the city to improve satisfaction on. Does that answer your question?
If maybe I can take a crack at plain languaging it a little bit, Johan.
Yes, sorry.
Councillor Killick, I've had the opportunity to look at this for a few weeks now and try and wrap my head around it. So I think the areas identified in red, that bottom right, they're sort of perceived as having a really high impact on the ranking of community satisfaction, but they've been identified as sort of maybe in our community as being lower on the satisfaction scale. So if we could only do 3 things, this survey to improve community or resident satisfaction, these findings say that those 3 in red are probably where we should focus our efforts. If we're able to do 9 or 7 or a few more, what the findings showed us is there's a lower impact to community satisfaction, things like, local business surveys, license and permits. But once we do the other 3 in red, we should then start to focus on the baby blue, because those are the next ones that are deemed. So they're having less of an impact or less of a influence on citizen satisfaction, but they're still highly important and highly regarded. Whereas the top half of the quadrant, the navy blue, they're saying those are highly influential on citizens' satisfaction. But by the same token, we also have indicated high satisfaction results from our community. So it's a really good thing. Like those 4 dark blue areas are areas where, you know, we need to keep doing what we're doing because it's for the most part working when it comes to residents feeling satisfied. Does that help a little bit?
Yeah, I just saw a bit of push-pull in the cultural services being in one quadrant, and then the opposite, truth and reconciliation, was way down in the other quadrant. So it's like mixed message to me, but we'll have to probably have a bit more discussion at our strategic planning session on what we really do there. The other question I had was in the it was chapter 8, priorities for city council, and it talked about movement and transportation, and it says specifically focusing in on synchronizing traffic lights and reducing traffic.
Yeah.
Synchronizing traffic lights seems like a very tactical response as opposed to something that says, you know, improve traffic flow. And I know we've had a little bit of debate around what synchronizing means versus adaptive signals, and reducing traffic is a pretty specific. So did residents come up with those terms, or was that a interpretation of the data?
No, they were like sync. They were using sync or synchronizing. Yeah, it was really kind of theming, you know, all the feedback, and a lot of it is just tremendous, and with a lot of detail. Yeah.
Okay, so that really helps me because I think we've got a communication opportunity around a lot of these. So that's very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Killick. Any questions arising online? No, good. Thank you very much. I appreciate, Councillor Bermanski's got her hand up. Go ahead, sorry.
Just the one comment that I have, I think we're kind of focusing on the dots too much. Like if you go over the survey, all those things are repeated in several sections and seem very clear to me. So I think the dots seem to be distorting things for people a little bit. So I would advise ignoring the dots and just read the surveys.
Thank you for your comment.
Yes, Councillor Bermanski, sorry, I just wanted to say that, you know, I think some of the goal in that survey is to keep asking, you know, asking participants to identify various, you know, sentiments by service area. That was really helpful because at the end, it helps you analyze like what's coming up to the top, right? What's really, you know, things that keep coming up. So this was really useful in the analysis.
And it did repeat itself over and over in the survey. So I thought it was very clear. It was very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. No, I agree with that. I don't see any more questions. Can I get a committee member to put the recommendation on the floor for me? Want to do that? Sure. Mayor Herron is going to do that. It's on the screen.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so the report titled Final 2021 City of St. Albert Community Satisfaction Survey Report, statistically valid, developed by Pivotal Research and attached to the February 14th, 2022 Community Living Standing Committee Agenda Report, Community Satisfaction Survey be received as information. And that the second motion is that Community Living Standing Committee recommend to Council that the findings in the report titled City of St. Albert 2021 Community Satisfaction Survey Results Report be approved.
Thank you. Any opening comments?
Nope.
We don't
Sorry.
No opening comments. Anything from the floor? Go ahead,
I have one
Councilor
thing.
Hughes. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good survey. I appreciated the level of detail that was brought forward to us. I think it was in more detail than we received in previous years. It's certainly going to be helpful as we have a priority session that and to see whether or not council chooses to listen to it or not. But definitely the taxes are an issue to a point where people are willing to take service levels cuts to ensure that they don't climb rapidly. So it should be helpful information as we move forward to the next month. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just go ahead, Councillor Kelly, you can make some comments, sure.
Yeah, well, not a committee member. Thank you. I would say it's good news. So, you know, reflects well on city staff and administration for the job they're doing to deliver all the services. Question though is when do we make the information public, obviously in a summarized way to residents? And maybe that's a question to Cindy because it ties back into communication.
We were actually in debate, but I'll let you ask your question.
Yes.
Hi.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Cindy, do you have a timeline now as to when this is going forward? Or Diane?
So as in oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, as with previous surveys, now that this information has been presented to committee, it is public information. And after it goes to council next week, it will be posted on the website. And that's actually where residents can find all of our previous surveys posted. So all that information will be made public, including, you know, the exact report that council has in front of them is posted publicly. Does that answer your question, Councillor Killick?
Yeah, yes, thank you.
All right, and then I'll wrap it up just with a few comments. Anything else, Councillor Killick?
Oh.
You know, good comments. I agree. This is great information. It validates some of the work, like I've said previously, that previous council has participated in and identifying important services for our community, particularly even arising out of COVID. It also, it gives us some additional information around priorities as we move into our strategic planning. So great information around that. But, you know, interestingly enough, a lot of the issues that we have been talking about, you know, we talk about communication and the importance of communication, and I'm going to re-emphasize that because obviously that's very important. But saying that also, you know, we look at road repair, maintenance, those were priorities for all of us. We look at business attraction services, small business supports, we identified that as also being very important. And certainly as we moved in, coming out of COVID, we identified the importance of supporting small businesses with some of our own grants. We've obviously identified community health as being important as we move into the, move out of the pandemic and move into whatever it's going to become, and certainly around our municipal budget and tax strategies too. So fantastic information. I appreciate the detail. Thank you very much for answering the question. And Erin, if you want to say anything to close, no?
Well
Just
said.
call the vote and you can raise your hands online. Thank you. It's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Pivotal Research, and all your staff. Thank you, Cindy, as usual. Fantastic. I look forward to more detail as it comes back from the different departments, Carrie. That'll be very useful information, as I said a number of times, around our strategic planning exercise. That's it. Everybody on committee, I've got number 8, which is adjournment. Thank you very much for your attendance, and everybody have a good day, Valentine's Day. Whatever you decide to do, all the best. Celebrate it safely.
Thank you.